All right, so recently I made a lot of I-Pace videos. You guys probably bored of it, so I thought let's mix it up with Tesla, because one thing is just to test I-Pace, right? But we should try to compare with Tesla. So that's what I did this time. So I did a 90 kilometers per hour test run, like I do. I did with the I-Pace, right? So we have 22 degrees Celsius in the car. We have used eco mode. And we drive at 90 kilometers per hour on flat, dry road. Okay, it was kind of cold, like 4 to 6 degrees Celsius that day I tested it. And I drove 60 kilometers a round trip for a good test. So yeah, so that was the I-Pace test, right? And as expected, the consumption was high. It was 226 watt-hour per kilometer. All right, and then a couple of days ago, I took Optimus Prime, which is the Model X, out for a spin. So the difference between the I-Pace and the Model X is that this one is the P90D ludicrous. It has the performance motor in the back, so it's heavier. The I-Pace, I measure it on the scale, which should be correct in Norway. Measure it to be 2,300 kilos, whereas Optimus Prime, or I mean this car, yeah, I keep calling it Optimus Prime. But anyway, the Model X performance version is 2,600 kilos. So we're talking about 300 kilos more. That's like over 10% more weight, right? And it's also a much larger car, like, size-wise than I-Pace. I-Pace is similar to Model S, really, when it comes to like space inside. But okay, I don't have a I don't have a Model S, so I just use Optimus, okay? So, how was it with a Tesla? Okay, I used range mode. I cruised at 90 kilometers per hour. I set it to 22 degrees Celsius. It was also cold that day. It was like 4 to 6 degrees Celsius. So very similar conditions. I'm pretty sure if I went back there today and retook the whole test, I would get almost the same, very consistent results, right? So, how much do you think the Tesla consumed? The Model X, it's a bigger car, right? Yeah, so the Tesla, okay, I-Pace consumed 226. My car consumed 221. Yeah, only 5 watt-hour per kilometer difference. Why is that? I thought it would be bigger, So I think the rolling resistance on my Nereus winter tires are like worse than my summer tires, because in summer I use winter tires. They have amazing rolling resistance and also good noise, whereas the Nereus tires, they have poor rolling resistance. But the I-Pace also use Nereus 19-inch, so it's still Nereus versus Nereus, very similar like conditions here. So that was the first test, right? And then I also did another test because I wanted to know, like, where was that inefficiency? Was it in drag in the I-Pace, or was it rolling resistance? I can't speak today. Rolling resistance, yeah. So I took the I-Pace on a hypermiling test also. So in this test, I used that energy saving mode where the screen goes blank. It will switch off air conditioning. We switch off HVAC, yeah, to save as much energy as possible, right? And then I drove at 42 kilometers per hour on the speedometer, which is 40 kilometers per hour real speed. And the result was 145 watt-hour per kilometer. Now that stretch was a little bit like up and down. So not very good hypermiling stretch, but at least it will give you some idea of like how much rolling resistance it has. Now earlier this summer, it was warmer, of course. I managed to get less than 100 on the Tesla Model S, but that was with summer tires. Okay, so I took Optimus Prime, the Model X. Keep in mind it weighs 300 kilos more. I took it on the hypermiling stretch, and my idea was that I got the impression that the I-Pace, they didn't tune the drivetrain to roll good enough. Like it seems like it had somewhat significant rolling resistance, So it's not like two factors here, high drag and maybe poor rolling resistance. Okay, so same thing there. Okay, with my Tesla Model X, I use range mode and I switch off HVAC. to save as much energy as possible and drove at 40 kilometers per hour. And the speedometer on the Tesla is like spot on, you know. So how was that result? Okay, I-Pace 145, right? Tesla Model X 157. So my Model X consumed more than the I-Pace, and can you believe that? You know, I always thought that the rolling resistance on the I-Pace was poor, but now it turns out that my Model X consumes more. So there could be some explanations here, because at higher speed, at 90 kilometers per hour, I consume less, right? But at 40 kilometers per hour, then I consume more, because like I mentioned, there was a short stretch I tested, and there was like up and down, up and down. That is not good for a heavy car like Optimus. But I also suspect that the rolling resistance on the tires is not great. But maybe my car is getting old and I have like poor, have more friction in the drivetrain, you know, like in gearbox and whatever. So it hasn't been serviced in. Hasn't been serviced in 90,000 kilometers. Last time was at 100,000. Now it's almost at 190,000. Yeah, EVs. But that was very unexpected, because I thought that Optimus would consume like 120. You know, that despite heavier weight, that it will still spend less energy than I-Pace. But it turns out my car is thirstier than the I-Pace in city driving. So what should I say? Okay, the I-Pace is thirsty, but keep in mind it's also heavy. Like some people, they have the idea that, you know, I-Pace is a small, nimble car. No, it is as heavy as a Model S. Yeah, a Model S performance version, not just the non-performance, of course, lighter than the I-Pace. But I-Pace is a heavy car. So yeah, I mean, because of that, it's a somewhat heavy car. It has some rolling resistance, and also it has poor aerodynamics. So yeah, but I mean, it seems like you guys are tired of me talking about the efficiency of I-Pace. So let me just stop talking about it. But actually, there's one thing I want to point out, which is that, you know, those guys who tested Tesla versus I-Pace this summer, they did it during summer with nice temperatures, right? And then it seems like the Tesla was like way more efficient. I thought that my Model X would beat the I-Pace, but keep in mind that these cars are designed very much alike, like modern EVs should be, which is that we have heat scavenging system here. You know, there's a water-cooled system that runs through the motor, battery, inverter, charger, everything, right? And then it uses this, like when you drive, there will be some heat generated in the motor, and then the coolant will run through the motor, cool it down, and then take that leftover heat and heat up the cabin, so we save energy, so we don't dump that wasted, and we reuse that energy, right? Reuse the heat. I-Pace and Tesla, they are designed like that. Not every car, not every EV is designed like that, like it should be. Kona is also designed like, and Nero. But if you look at Ioniq, no heat scavenging system. But the difference between Tesla and I-Pace is that Tesla, I mean, when Tesla, I mean Model S and X and maybe 3. The difference is that I-Pace uses heat pump for heating up the car. Like most other EVs, they have a heat pump. You know, the Golf, Leaf, Ioniq, they use heat pump. Heat pump is more efficient than what is in the Tesla, which is the PTC heater, resistive heater. Tesla only relies on the PTC heater and the scavenging of heat. It doesn't use heat pump for heating up stuff, and for most time it works great, right? In winter I've used it. I've used the car a lot during cold winters, and even when it's cold outside, then I don't really feel that much. The range drops by about 10 to 20% during winter, whereas other cars which doesn't have the heat scavenging system, they might get as much as 50% drop in range. So that is good for Tesla, but I believe that we should redo this test in winter with I-Pace versus any Tesla, even a Model S, because I believe that I-Pace will be more efficient during winter because it uses the heat pump. Okay, maybe up until, let's say, minus 20 degrees Celsius, then maybe the heat pump will have like less efficiency. But for most people, they don't drive in that much cold. So we should do this again, rematch, you know. Try this again. I find this interesting. You know, some of you guys, you get the wrong idea. I think that I'm always looking for mistakes and always looking for the negative things about I-Pace. No, I just want to find out how it is, you know. Just want to test things and find the facts. So it will be interesting to try this in a couple of months. Try the I-Pace versus even a Model S. Yeah, let's challenge it. Yeah, see how it goes. So yeah, I think that's it then. I-Pace versus Model X challenge, or yeah, comparison. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this was interesting for you. It was interesting for me. So talk to you later.